Hello and welcome to the Naked Expat channel. Today I'm going to talk about international driver's permits, and if you're an expat living in the Philippines already, specifically why it may be in your best interest, if you're going to be driving abroad in the future, to drive on your Philippine license in conjunction with an international driver's permit rather than say your UK license with an international driver's permit. And there's some very valid reasons why it may be beneficial for you to do it. So folks, listen up, because this applies to everybody. Firstly, as you may be aware, if you visit the Philippines as a tourist, you're able to drive on your, say, UK driver's license, your domestic license, for up to 90 days. After that period of time, you need to convert your license to a Philippine driver's license. And there's a few hoops to jump through, but it's a relatively straightforward process. Once you've got your Philippine driver's license, if you hold a valid ACR card, or if you don't have an ACR card because you're under the PRA SRRV retirement visa scheme, you can use your SRRV card. But if you've got a passport, SRRV or ACR card, and a valid Philippine driver's license, you can apply for an international driver's permit. And there's some very valid reasons why you may want to do that. And certainly tell your friends if this doesn't apply to you, because this is very, very beneficial for a lot of people. And I'll explain some real benefits why. Firstly, international driver's permits come in two forms. There's one which falls under the Geneva Convention. That's only applicable if you want to drive or ride a motorcycle in Japan, and that's valid for 1 year. The other one falls under the Vienna Convention, and it's typically valid for up to 3 years. But some countries, when you arrive in the country to drive under that permit, will say, okay, it's valid for 3 years, but we only validate it for 1 year. So you might have an international driver's permit for 3 years, but when you arrive in the country to drive or to ride a motorcycle, it might only be valid for 12 months. So do bear that in mind. The international driver's permit that's issued under the Vienna Convention, it's valid for up to 3 years, is acceptable in over 150 countries. So that's the main one. It's acceptable in the USA, the UK, Singapore, for example. Why might you want an international driver's permit? Well, let's take, for example, that you're in the UK and you come and live in the Philippines and you've got a UK license and you've been here a while and you've converted your UK license to a Filipino license. So you've got a Filipino license, but you want to go and drive back in the UK. Now, there might be two reasons why you would want to do this under an international driver's permit. One of the reasons is very, very valid. Let's say, for example, you go back to the UK on your UK driving license and you get caught speeding with one of these Gatso speed cameras or average speed cameras during roadworks. You're going to get issued with points. If you're renting a car or you're using a friend's car, they're going to know who the driver is. If you're renting a car, they're going to pass on the conviction to you and you'll end up getting points on your license and a fine. But what if you were driving on a Philippine license with an international driver's permit? Certainly the rental company or your friend, etc., you nominate, say, look, I was the one driving, put my hands up. You'll have to pay the fine. But they can't impose any points because you weren't driving the car under your UK license. You were driving your car under a valid Filipino license with an international driver's permit. The other reason is, let's say, for example, you've been a naughty boy in the past and you've got a lot of speeding convictions or DUIs, driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol. It's easily done. And in the UK, for example, where there's CCTV and speed cameras everywhere, in a lot of zones, let's say in central London, a lot of city centres and near schools, there's 20-mile-an-hour zones, which are there for valid reasons. But if you've been a driver for any particular period of time, you know it's very, very hard to drive at 20 miles an hour. I mean, it's ridiculously slow. It's there for valid reasons, don't get me wrong. But it's very, very easy to speed. It's very easy to do 50 miles an hour in a 40-mile-an-hour limit. It's very easy to do 35 in a 30 limit. And you'll be hit with a speeding fine and potential points on your license. Well, if you've got a UK license but you're living in the Philippines, let's say you've got 6 points on your license already. Well, you don't want to accumulate any more. You could end up coming back to the Philippines and then realising you've lost your UK licence because you got caught speeding twice when you went back to the UK for a brief vacation. Whereas if you were driving on your Philippine licence with an international driver's permit, you can pay the fines, but they've got no license to impose the points on. See where I'm going with this, guys? The other thing, if you want to rent a car, say you're British or European or Australian, and you want to go to America, and you've got convictions on your license for speeding or DUIs in the past, etc., and you can't lie because these rental companies can access your DVLA record, etc., and see if you've got any convictions apart from spent ones. So if you've got any speeding convictions, for example, you may find it very, very hard, if not nigh on impossible, to rent a car in America or wherever in Europe you want to go, for example. Or they will accept you, but they will bump up the premiums massively because you're potentially a higher risk. But what happens again, if you go to rent a car in the States using a Philippine, you're British citizen or Australian or European, you're British citizen or whatever, and you rent the car in the States using your Philippine license and an international driver's permit. You carry the two together. That's how they're made valid. You haven't got any bad history. So chances are, one, you're able to rent a car, and two, you're able to rent a car at standard rates. Another benefit, this happens a lot of times. When you convert your foreign domestic license to a Philippine license, you might well only be able to drive in the UK or Europe, for example, drive a car, a vehicle under, say, 7.5 tons, a very small sort of box van, and a very low cc, low capacity motorcycle, 50cc or whatever. Not a large capacity motorcycle. But when you convert your domestic foreign license to a Philippine license, in most instances, not all, but in most instances, when you convert your license, you'll be given a Philippine license, which enables you to drive any car, automatic or manual, etc., depending on your license, but also, interestingly, any CC large capacity motorcycle, even if your domestic license says you haven't got a separate large capacity motorcycle license. Whether or not it's dangerous for you to do so or not, I don't know. I learned to ride large motorcycles in the Philippines, not in the UK. And I would suggest that if you can ride a motorcycle in Asia, you can pretty much ride a motorcycle anywhere in the world because there's absolute chaos out there, as you all you guys know. But interestingly, see, if I wanted to ride a large capacity motorcycle, if I was back in the UK, I couldn't do it on my UK license because I'm limited to a very small capacity motorcycle. But I could go back to the UK and ride on my Philippine license with my international driver's permit any CC motorcycle I want. In the Philippines, I ride currently a motorcycle which is 1200cc. My previous motorcycle was a Honda Valkyrie, 1850cc. These are large capacity, powerful motorbikes. The Valkyrie is a bit like a Goldwing. My current motorcycle is a 1200cc, but it's got 135 brake horsepower, this Aprilia. I wouldn't be able to ride that in the UK or in Europe legally, but I can on my Philippine license with an international driver's permit. And I could go over to the States and enjoy Sturgis, for example, if I wanted to ride in the States. So there's another benefit. To apply for a Philippine driver's permit, you apply through the Automobile Association of the Philippines. As a foreigner, they accept applications. You need to have a valid passport, a valid Philippine driving license, and you need an ACR card or, in its place, a PRA issued SORV visa card. The application process is relatively straightforward. I'll put a link in the description of this video that will take you directly to the Automobile of the Philippines website where you can see the application process. I believe the application fee is about 4,200 pesos. Plus you need to supply a copy of your passport, driving license and two 2x2 inch photographs. It's worth bearing in mind that you do not apply for an international driver's permit through the LTO. You only apply for an international driver's permit through the Automobile Association of the Philippines or one of its accredited agents. But I would deal direct if I was you. It's relatively straightforward to do that. I'll just take it off my list. So as you can see, there's some real benefits and advantages of considering driving internationally when you're outside of the Philippines as an expat using your Philippine driving license and an international driver's permit. If you do get caught speeding or any convictions whatsoever whilst you're abroad, you can ring fence your domestic driving licence, your American driving licence, Europe, UK, Australian driving licence, and protect it, because any convictions won't bounce back and hit you in the Philippines. So it's very valid. Likewise, if you've got existing convictions on your UK, European or American licence, you'll find it very, very hard to rent a car if you want to come out of the Philippines and explore somewhere in Europe or the States. Rental companies are going to refuse you, certainly if you've got DUI convictions, etc. But of course, you've got a blank slate with your Filipino driving licence and there isn't any convictions against you. So that enables you to rent a car abroad and enjoy a travelling holiday, whereas you may not have been able to on your existing licence with your existing convictions. I hope you found this video of interest. It certainly opens up a lot of possibilities and avenues for drivers and riders of large capacity motorcycles if they want to enjoy vacations abroad outside of the Philippines, and perhaps you've not considered these opportunities before. Similarly, please like and subscribe. It does help my channel. Watch some of my other videos. I know I'm not talking about such popular topics as women, but that's not what this channel's all about. This channel's about stripped back to basics advice, and it's about a community where we can all help each other out. So I would ask you, if you do believe in my mission, vote with your feet, tell other people about my channel, and hopefully we can get more people interested. Enjoy.